Hello and welcome to the Tech on Toast podcast. My name's Chris Fletcher and this is season 12. Tech on Toast podcast is serving up fresh chats with the sharpest minds in hospitality and tech. If you're looking to level up your ops, streamline your service, or just sprinkle a little tech magic into your business, you've come to the right place. And guess what? Our partners Lightspeed are back this season to look after us. They're the EPOS and payments platform helping over 165,000 businesses. Businesses such as Big Mama, Mildred's, Mallow, and Cubit House. They'll help you scale at, you guessed it, the speed of light. See what I did there? With real-time insights, faster transactions, and slick integrations with people like OpenTable, Xero, Muse, and many more, Lightspeed's unified platform is built to boost your performance and turn your tables quicker than you can say flat white, extra hot. So, if you need fast funding, check out Lightspeed Capital. No hidden fees, no interest charges, just smart support when you need it. If you're curious about all of this, just head over to lightspeed.co.uk/tech-on-toast and book yourself a free demo. You won't regret it. Now, enough of that. Ready for the next episode? Let's go.
Today I'm delighted to be joined by my old mate. I say Jonathan, but it's not right, is it?
It's Jonatan.
The people in the UK just skip the Jonatan.
Yeah, I've been called John, Johan, whatever. It's fine.
And what do you do? Tell us about your company. What do you do? Why are you here today?
Yeah, so I am CEO and co-founder of All Gravy. What we do at All Gravy is basically make workplaces fun to work at, but also make a lot more effective and more profitable. The way we do that is by creating an all-in-one solution for anything that relates to people. So that could be communications, training, scheduling, ops, to-do lists, etc. But rather than just putting everything into one tool, we've also made a huge focus on Gen Z, creating something that actually feels like WhatsApp, Instagram, what they're used to in their day-to-day lives.
Yeah, and I think it's such a huge, after the pandemic, everybody went on to Meta, and now that's closing off. But I think it had its day in terms of the way it was being used. I think a lot of the engagement dropped off. Are you seeing the use cases, people coming to you and looking for that kind of joining together of all the products you mentioned?
People need to find a tool that isn't Meta now that Meta is closing down.
Yeah.
I think Meta have built a fantastic communication tool.
I think it's taught them, hasn't it? I think it almost taught the brands that it's the better way of being connected. I thought
Exactly. What we're seeing from companies coming from Meta is that they chat an unbelievable amount, right? Like we just got Pizza Pilgrims live. The amount of messages they sent was like twice all of our other customers combined, despite them not being in the top 10 in terms of size of our customers.
And I think that's about their brand. My son works there, but I know internally what they're like. They're a really nice company to work for, and I think that they really care. That engagement piece, not easy to. Tech has to play a part in that these days. I don't think it can be done anymore via email or via WhatsApp.
The thing is, SAP and Meta are just fantastic for chatting, but they're terrible for professional communication in the sense that you keep being disturbed over time as you grow in more and more sites. People get buzzed on a Friday evening and can't really have the day off. You forget to get people out of that WhatsApp group that then privy to sensitive information. People don't get invited, so they actually don't know what's going on at their workplace.
And I've heard some horror stories about stuff being discussed. As much as you want to control them, that control is difficult when it's an app already used for personal reasons as well. But
you don't own it.
On the learning side, it's quite a big piece without being rude to everybody. I think it hasn't been addressed properly for a long time in the industry. When video learning came in, late 90s, our friend John was doing that. It engaged people, but still we won't get the result. Do you think you're helping shift that, really getting people to engage with learning and actually help improve retention, which is your main reason to be, right?
We do see that retention increases by 20% when people implement All Gravy. We've looked at how people, especially the younger generation, learn in their day-to-day lives. When they're learning languages, they use Duolingo, which is like bite-sized, fun little games that like engages you to actually learn. And I think we're seeing that as we go into companies, the same thing is happening. Not only are we the place where the community is, where they're communicating, they're also learning that it's the first thing they see as they join a new company. And all of that together just means that they engage a lot with the app, but the app isn't what in itself creates that retention. It's, as you said, companies like Pizza Pilgrims that manage to create that full community around it.
The workforce changed, whether people accept it or not, it has changed. And I think regardless of the pandemic, it was going to change anyway. There's an older bunch of people like myself coming out of the industry, operated in it for a long time. When you look at the new kids coming in, forget said pandemic, the way they've grown up with the iPhone in their hand, they've grown up in a different world, and they want to be connected, but in their own way. And I think that's part of the issue.
I think one of the big problems that we're seeing is that we come into companies, they've grown from 5 to 10 to 20 to 40 sites, think honest, but through that journey, they found different problems that they needed to solve. First, there's a scheduling problem, then there's a communication problem, then there's a learning problem. Like they need people to actually know what they're doing on the first day. Not only so they're more productive, but also they don't leave.
People put 90 days on it. It's actually probably 30 days. The expectations weren't set properly half the time. So
Exactly,
The learning.
Yeah, so they've bought a tool for each of these challenges to solve. A new employee coming into an organization like that is left with what we call a spaghetti of shit. Like just a bunch of different apps. They don't know what anything does. They get introduced to 7 different tools. They don't know what they're supposed to do at work. They don't know anyone they can ask. At the end of the day, what ends up happening is if they can't find something, they'll just call HR. What we do is create this one interface that the employee connects into. It's guiding them through their pre-boarding, their onboarding, what is expected on the first day. It shows them all of the other tools that we're then deeply integrated to show the rota from the scheduling system. So they can see everything in our app, but they can also jump into the other apps if they need to do something within them.
I think that's part of the massive benefit. That connectivity piece is absolutely crucial. Are you seeing, I know it's early days in the UK, but are you seeing much in terms of proof of concept? I'm sure you've got proof of concept back home in Europe, but are you seeing much proof of concept over here in the UK with some good brands coming on?
Yeah, we didn't expect that to get that much tailwind
not
as
quickly, is it?
We didn't think so, but it has happened relatively quickly as we came over here. I think in Scandinavia, people invest loads in these digital tools. They're very mature for some reason because labor costs are high. You really need to streamline your business. Coming into the UK, we saw that the LMS stack was outdated. There's a lot of tailwind from Meta stopping and things not really feeling like social media today. What we have seen is that, as we spoke about already, Pizza Pilgrims, Honest Burger, Oaxaca, Ottolenghi, Dishoom, like these companies joining relatively quickly. And then that has just created this.
I would put them all in the same bucket. I respect all of those brands.
I think we also saw a big culture match with these companies. They really care about their employees. You said that about Pizza Pilgrims, right? We have a shared vision about where we're going. I think we're like at the frontier of what tech can do, also starting to dive deeply into AI with an employee first focus, right? Which is what all of these companies have just gotten really tired of buying tech that's super expensive, supposedly solves a problem, but no one uses it, so it doesn't actually solve a problem. So everyone's now going back to how do we find something that we believe these 17, 18, 21-year-olds will actually use on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, and the proof is in the pudding, right? I looked at my app use on my phone. I've got 5 apps I use 70% of the time. I log in. I think it proves that if you can get a tool that's bringing it all into one place, sharing recipes, Joshua in Pizza Pilgrims, which I know you guys plug into, I think it's a pretty clever way of bringing together all their material. Part of the pitch was that you guys had to work with that, right?
Exactly. It's our own AI bot. But actually, the first thing we built was almost this interface into an AI bot. Who cares who owns the AI bot? Where it gets is, we call it memories. It can be from Joshua with Pizza Pilgrims. It can be from our own thing that we built with companies. We are an interface that links into that AI. The better companies are at building within our platform, the more usage you get. So Pizza Pilgrims is a great example. I believe it's after 2 weeks, on average, every employee had logged in 120 times on the app. 98% had adopted it. I think the only adopters were people that were on vacation. So we're seeing just super engaged employees.
I think, and that's it. That's the holy grail, right? These companies spend this money purely for that reason. I remember them telling me a stat where they had a staff survey they'd sent out prior to Joshua and prior to you guys that got 28% engagement. Ollie was telling me that next time I did it through Joshua, which is just remarkable. It just proves the point. It doesn't mean the employees changed overnight. It just means you found a way to connect them.
Exactly. A lot of companies we speak to, they're like, oh, I have to change in this way because of Gen Z. Why do I have to change so much because of them? It's because you build a workplace for your generation. So when Gen Z comes into that workplace, they're going to feel like, this wasn't made for me. They don't really want me here. There's probably another place that fits me better, so I'll go there. Just going back to the engagement piece, one of the other big customers that we signed up were telling me with pride that 60% of their employees log into their communications platform once a week. And they're like, we have great engagement. You know that on average on our platform, people log in 70 times a month. You'll be blown away by what will happen once you launch this.
And I think it changes the whole infrastructure of your central. Not that you're going to get rid of people or anything, but it changes the way you can communicate compared to what you were doing previously. I think the benefits are all over the place. I think it's really hard sometimes to quantify saying about where are the quick wins. It's hard to quantify actually how much impact it'll have. But the simple thing about not asking an HR person a question, that gives that HR person back 10 minutes. And if you scale that over the year, across the team, across every site, all of a sudden that person's back.
Exactly. The thing about starting to implement AI into all of these different workflows we have, right? There's something around training, seeing where is your training not great. There's helping the manager schedule. But when I'm looking for information in an app, I can search for what's there usually. And if it isn't there, then I don't have the information. I ask my manager. But once you have an AI like Joshua or ours, you can ask about things that'll load up questions you wouldn't see. You don't know what the gaps are, which means suddenly you can start building out this content that'll actually answer the questions that people have as they're doing service.
I think that my son the other day had to find out his holiday usage. He said to me, "Oh, I need to ask the GM." I went, "Don't ask the GM. I said, use the bot." So he asked the bot. He said, "Oh, what does the holiday year run from?" Told him, then booked the holiday, did it all in one go. And I was just laughing, going, "That's the way, mate."
Yeah.
He looked at me like that was normal. I was like, "That's not normal in this industry, unfortunately," but it will be, I think.
But this is also, it's going to be normal in normal life before it's normal in the industry.
Yes,
But what we're already starting to see is like people in the normal, like when I do gardening, I take a photo of the bush I'm dealing with. I'm like, what do I do here? And ChatGPT just tells me I'm interacting with it.
And I've stopped using Google. I'll take most docs, or like you said, most images I use, pump it in and ask it to explain or ask it to do something. I was showing my wife the other day. She's never off it. So that's her new life. She's on there like, does recipes mainly, cooking mainly, but really looking at different ways to do different things. We've got an autistic son, our youngest, and actually the community desperate. Those isolated communities desperate. I was doing an allergen panel yesterday. People with allergens, people with autism, all these different groups who have been out on the fringes for a long time. This tech will bring them in. This tech will give and also educate the people that don't understand those people. So it's super exciting. What's going to happen next? Because obviously you guys are busy. You're here today at HRC, and then I'm guessing you're going to be pressing the boards everywhere. Are you doing European trade shows as well, or just focusing on the UK?
We have focused on the UK. We came out of Scandinavia, had great success there, still have. Now we're focused on the UK. We're seeing that what we've built really resonates with what's needed in the industry.
Is perfect.
And and I think the next obvious step for us is the US. Like we could go to Holland, France, Germany, but really what we're building, if it makes sense in the UK, it also makes sense in the US.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I was talking to the founder of DeliverX yesterday, Jerome, and the other founder, Zong, is now living in New York, and he's taken DeliverX over there. And he was telling me some challenges they've come up against. But you guys should have a chat because super interesting the way they've infiltrated that market.
Yeah.
Because I actually think the European and UK way of selling tech or putting tech into business, I think we're actually miles ahead of what they've got over there.
Yeah.
And that's my understanding. From what I hear, market, and very clunky, big corporate tech that's been there for a while that hasn't really been challenged. And I think that's going to come from people like you, which is super exciting. And where are you from originally?
I'm from Denmark, Copenhagen.
And you've got a little boy?
Got a little boy, 3-year-old.
All right. How's it like being a founder? Because I saw you post yesterday, you're traveling a lot. Traveled a lot all your life, or is this quite new to you?
I've traveled all my life. I started my career as a consultant, living in London. Every Monday to Thursday, I was traveling to Frankfurt, Copenhagen, Stockholm for work, right? And I loved that like fast-paced life. I realized at some point when I looked at like the partners there who all were gray hair, unfit, divorced, and like hating their life, answering emails at 6 a.m. And like, this is not what I want to dedicate my life to. So I stopped and have been working with technology in Copenhagen for the last 8 years, and the last 4 years have been all gravy. And only recently that has had to have an element of travel within it. To answer your question about what's it like being a founder and a father at the same time, I think it's a difficult balance. I'm very lucky that I have a mom who helps out a lot, like picks up my kid twice a week.
I'm my kids at home now while I'm here. It's not easy, but I think you're being fulfilled, obviously. What you're doing, you love it. And actually that should travel through the family eventually. It just takes time to get the two to match.
Yeah, I try to be very careful about it. I travel max 2 days at the same time. I try and not do more than 2 trips a month. But honestly, I think I would be a pretty bad parent if I wasn't living the life I wanted to live. I'm not saying go party every Friday, Saturday, but I want to do something, which is what I'm doing right now. I think I'm going to be a much better parent if I'm doing that.
I think I meet on the podcast, have a calling, call it that, and something they have to achieve. And I think kids are only ever going to look, wow, I want to do that. Or at least want to feel passionate about my job. Whether I'm a McDonald's co-worker or whether I'm my own tech company. I think as long as they can feel passionate about it, you're doing your job right. What about All Gravy? What's the plan? The more rollouts, I know you're going to the US, UK. What about the actual product? Is the most come from the product?
Yeah, there's lots more to come from the product. We just raised another $3 million. Thank you.
Secretly happy inside.
Which means that we have hired a lot more developers. We split the team into what we call an engagement team and a scheduling rota team that's working on that more hardcore tech stack. Because I think the beauty of this tech is really when it all plays together. You were saying your kid, but think of how impactful that is going to be when you have that full tech stack. Within the tech, you can say, okay, I want to swap this shift. I can either send it to my buddy, Chris, and you can just accept it within the chat.
It's huge. 5 years ago, if you run multi-ad and worked in a company that had 98, And in London, particularly, we had our main focus 5 sites, swapping shifts. Shared a lot of team, obviously, around London, a lot of chefs, a lot of waiters. It was chaos.
It's insane.
Chaos. Because it wasn't chaos about moving them. We could do that, phone them up. That worked. But the problem was documenting it, tracking it, rewarding on it.
Coordinating it as well, right?
It was done through area managers. Actually, I had Matt Grimshaw on the first panel on Monday, and he talked about 85% of the work the head office team doing will be gone in the next 2 years. AI.
I agree. I think all of the trivial work will be gone.
The kind of stuff that you don't necessarily
Like reference letters, replying that, or like how do I book vacation? All of these things are going to be gone, which means the people team can actually do valuable people strategy work, culture work, these kind of things.
I think that's the thing. My hope is when that happens, the companies don't take out people teams. They reinvest them back into the business. That human element of being able to connect with the teams in a fashion where I'm just after you individual, making sure you're okay. Maybe you've got some issues. That's absolutely powerful, and that's what the industry does really well. So hopefully tech like that place.
People are getting more and more aware that they need to invest in their employees. You have the recent regulation as well, making employees even more expensive, meaning that you really need to find a way of making them as productive as possible, which means making them as happy as possible so they're retained, they can climb the ranks within your company.
There was a post on LinkedIn by a lady called Tracy Parr, who's the people and culture director at Molly's Motels. And she was talking about a guy who left Molly's but came back into co-working, the restaurant. That's really strong culture. Tech can't do that. That's someone in a place that feels welcome back. I've worked in companies all over the world, and you end up never lose their friends. It's in a strong culture where relationships build. And I think if you can enable that through technology, enable that connection, keep people connected, when they do leave, all they're going to do is walk to the next job and go, oh, do you not have all gravy?
Exactly.
That's kind of where you want to get to. I do think these kids are going to do that. They are going to move company to company saying, oh, it was much better at the last place.
Exactly.
Without being rude to anyone else. But no, really cool, mate. And what's the plan for the rest of the day? Flying out tonight?
Flying out tonight.
What time are you on?
At 12:30,
Okay,
talking about the whole employee journey, how we can digitize bits of it to enhance the employee experience, and also how we can keep that personal touch within every step.
Who's joining you on stage? I think
Kerry and Fernanda from Caravan and
very
Peter
cool.
Martin.
All right, enjoy that, mate. Thank you for joining us. How do we find you if we want to get in touch? I forgot to ask you.
The easiest way is just to hit me up on LinkedIn.
Okay, and allgravy.com or?
Allgravy.com, LinkedIn, Jonatan Marc Rasmussen, hard to spell.
We'll see you soon. Cheers.